States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have four main items on our agenda tonight. The first item that I'm showing is a review of the upcoming board agenda. Ms. Metzger, whatever you'd like to share with us about that at this time would be great.
Where do you want me to start with?
I would say the consent agenda items that are not typical would be great.
One of the things that I wanted to point out with the transfer tuition request, I did a little more digging on that. Right now we have 74 students coming. We have 48 from North White, 11 from Frontier, 1 from Delphi, there's 7 from Pioneer, 1 from Tri-County, and 1 from Eastern. So that's kind of a breakdown of where they're coming from.
Yeah, I looked at that too. Is that the normal number for this time of year? Yep.
Yes.
Does that include kids that were here last year?
The majority of the students on this list were here last year.
That's what I meant.
They had a deadline, the deadline's passed, but we always get more coming in, so
Okay.
this is, and I expect more. We usually have more than this,
Okay, so it's about normal where we're at.
absolutely.
Okay.
I know that a lot of these are facilities related. Does the facilities committee have anything they want to share with the board as a group regarding what you discussed this month?
Not really. Baseball, softball fields, we're going to do some work on the fields. Some technology, we need some switches. And that's an additional cost to, I believe, our $127,000 that we initially spent. I think that was 17, that sticks in my mind.
17,000.
Yeah, 17,000 additional for some security type switches that need to be added to.
Yeah. So that's in addition to phase 2, correct?
Yeah, that's an addition on phase 2. Central office, for security purposes, we felt the need to secure the front door. So,
Alec noted that that's the only unsecured building.
yeah, that is our only unsecured building, and so we wanted to bring in Mohawks to refab that door. That's at about 5400.
Basically putting it like we have at the high school.
Security function type security.
It would, yeah, it would be the same thing that it is at the high school with the camera. Yes, we're the only, it would actually, I think the quote is almost similar to
54.
the high school, yes.
And
Just a little under 6,000.
we're going to do some work on the sewer lines.
I want to know what the cafeteria people are doing to the refrigerators.
Yeah, we're going to do some upgrades to the refrigerator.
Is that a brand new, or is that just replacing parts to the
It's just
cooler?
replacing parts.
Yeah.
Okay.
The refrigerator and the freezer here have both been replaced and replaced the parts. So we're going to replace them again.
One question we had, Herman, can you hear me over there? He can't hear.
Herman,
Herman, on that's 8 24-port switches for the cameras.
That's,
We got
yes.
192 cameras.
No, I don't know how many cameras we're getting, but it would be to whichever closet, you can only have one. I'm assuming they needed a switch in 8 different locations. Because we have 6 closets in the high school alone, and 3 at the junior high, which I understood.
Oh, so you may not be using all 8.
Probably not.
You may not be using all of them, but
Your
you've
power
got so many
consumption-
locations that you need that many switches.
And power consumption, they probably couldn't produce power to all 24.
Yeah, and the other thing I saw in that quote was that they're $750 to hang the switches in the racks. Did you see that?
I know, I didn't.
That kind of surprised me because I don't know what that entails, but I figured you guys are quite capable of hanging switches in a rack.
Well, yeah, we can hang those. I mean, the purchase of them is one thing, but the putting them in, yeah, we can handle that.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Because they said you guys were going to go ahead and any programming would fall to our staff, but and I didn't know if there was something they had to do, but I thought Probably don't need to spend that money.
No, I wouldn't think so.
Okay, well,
They'd have to tell us where they want them, that's where they're putting them, I wasn't.
yeah, they were gonna take a half a day to do that. But anyway. If you find out that they need, don't let me shut you off on that, okay, if it's needed, but if you guys can do it.
I was just told that they needed them, I didn't know what their locations were.
Okay, thank you. Sorry if I yelled.
It's okay, I knew I couldn't hear you. The
Anything
next,
else on the consent agenda?
the one thing I wanted to bring up was, Jen, we're still doing the area for the Park Place meals, correct? And that went fine last year, okay.
We're dropping the Methodist church only because they built their own kitchen and they're now able to self-op, which is great for them, but we're gonna continue with Park Place.
Students for the school, for the blind, what's our number now this year? Do you know?
We only have the one student.
Just still the one?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's yearly, and also with the Special Olympic athletes as well.
Because it said students to Indiana, and I thought we
Yeah.
only had one,
We
that I
only-
remember.
We currently have the same students
Okay.
that's attending,
So it's just one.
one student.
Are they holding Special Olympics this year?
I do not know. This is just something that's brought up every year that we do transport those
Right.
students.
If we do.
If they have
If they do.
something, yeah. I would touch on buses. We've had these. We're going with the same company for 3 buses as we have in the past. The only difference are the cameras in this, the buses. They actually have an overhang view camera, so you can see in the seats. So it's going to be much better than trying to determine, kind of guessing what they were doing in the seats, where we can actually see in the seats. It's a 360 camera, so it's much better. We had to bid separately, that's new, so you bid separate on all the cameras now. And we believe there's 78 passengers buses. We did not get much from the buses. Of course, we turned in one that was $250 because it was not running. So if you were wondering why that was lower, the bus did not run any longer. So they gave us $250, which was nice because they hauled it away. So those were the bus bids.
Other concerns or questions on the consent agenda before we move on? Hearing none, under the business area, any items for concern, Devin? The safety plan is going to crank back up in September once we've had a chance to.
Yes, we have not met again on the safety plan, so that has not, we have not met.
And the e-learning guidelines were presented to us here in our packet this evening, is that correct?
Yes, that's the first item in your packet. The only thing that was changed, I highlighted in yellow, in that this is the same guidelines as last year, except for the teacher portion. We wanted to clarify, one thing was the waiver days. We had some, and it was new to everyone, so the waiver days were a little confusing. What do we do on those days? Are we contracted 9 to 3? So we wanted to put it in detailed writing that, yes, you are still available for students 9 to 3. This is a day where teachers can work on lesson plans, catching up, usually grading, but also it's a day for students to catch up too, so they can contact the teachers, and teachers are available. One other thing that we stuck in there was ghost employment, where they should be working during those hours, not on vacation or going for a hike or doing those things, which we all wanted to do because there were some nice days. But we wanted to make sure that teachers understood that they should be working during that time. That's really the only, we actually did then put some guidelines. This is going to come into our PD, the guidelines that we expect from a teacher, that they are actually providing face-to-face lessons for their kids. They're not just having a Google Meet and talking and chatting and checking up on each other, that it's gonna be instruction just like they would have had in the classroom. So that means Marcus and I are coming up with a professional development plan. We'll work with the teachers. We did the survey, what were they comfortable with, what were they not comfortable with. So that will turn out to be our professional development on the technology side. A lot of teachers said they're more comfortable, but we still have teachers that are not comfortable, and a lot of the time, I thought they did a fabulous job. They put hours of work into it, and a lot of the things that we did before this all came about, and, you know, we didn't think we thought 2 weeks and we're gonna be back in school. So for the teachers to kind of flip and do e-learning the remainder of the year was pretty impressive, and I commend them. But we're gonna put some things in place to help them. It will not only help the e-learning, but it'll also help classroom instruction, flip classrooms, presenting the lesson. So overall instruction should actually be improved as well. So that's kind of on the curriculum side of that. Everything else remains the same. We had no changes to that.
My question I have is, I thought I read in here somewhere, like the elementary kids, they don't take their Chromebooks home?
Yes, they do.
I thought it said in here somewhere that they did not.
It's in there for the reentry plan.
That's the reentry
Right, so
plan.
That, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a different plan.
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you.
So if they were to go home for e-learning, they would take it with them.
Right.
But
Okay.
day-to-day, business as usual, they will not take it.
Thank you.
Okay.
So I just basically misread that one.
Thank you for that clarification. Other questions about anything under old business or new business before we move on? Or Deb, things that you need to bring to our attention in
I
particular?
don't believe so.
Okay. That is other than the personnel and recommendations section, I have nothing else on the agenda. If there's no further questions or comments, we can move on to the next item on the work session. And we will do so as soon as I flip that page back up. Next item I have is discussion of the school treasurer position. So as you know, 6 months ago, Kim Campbell agreed to serve as our interim treasurer. We are at the end of that 6-month period. We have the option to have her continue as interim. We have the option to promote her to a full-time treasurer. We have the option to table, and if you will, and allow her to continue as interim until such a time as we're ready to make a change. So, Ms. Metzger, I know you and I spoke briefly about some of your opinions on this. Would you share those with the board at this time, please?
I think Kim has done a fabulous job, put in countless hours. I think she's ready for the position. I believe no matter which, she's fulfilled the role for 6 months. She's done a great job. If she walked out the door today, we'd be in serious trouble. I believe, and this is just my opinion, that you're always going to need a treasurer position, so whatever direction the school board wants to go, you always have to have her position, and I think she's earned that position. She has taken on more than most people would and stayed. And I think that would be a disservice to her if we did not allow her to have that treasurer title. No matter if you go the business manager route or whatever, it's still, you're gonna have a treasurer. She is the main keeper there, so, I don't think there's a school corporation out there that doesn't have a school treasurer, and they're the person, the go-to person. Anybody sitting in this room goes to Kim Campbell to, for their needs. So I highly recommend that you consider, naming her treasurer tonight.
Well, we
Next
can't
Tuesday.
tonight.
At the board meeting.
So in the interest of discussion, the financial committee has met with her. We've been very pleased with her efforts. She has gutted herself to make it happen. There is still the consideration that we're using outside assistance and so forth, and that is something that the board is considering, versus the full-time treasury position, which is someone who's typically not using consulting help. I don't think anyone's dissatisfied with her effort. or with her commitment. I will say that was on the mind of the finance committee as we looked at it at this 6-month time period versus down the road and in the future.
I think we had anticipated it was going to take more than 6 months for her to get fully trained and engaged in that position, so it sounds like she's shown enough promise that we could move forward with that.
So, any other discussion or comments on that position at this time? Okay. Thank you very much for your input. Next item I have on the agenda is discussion of the school board attorney position. You have in your packets 2 out of the 3 resumes that were submitted due to a bookkeeping error. One of them did not make it to us tonight.
There are actually
There's 3.
3, and then we'll have a 4th.
Right.
I beg your pardon. Okay. So, are we counting Bose McKinney's retainer program as one of the 4?
Yeah.
Okay, I meant 3 individuals.
Okay.
So,
Before I think we proceed any further, I think we need to give a big thank you to the late John Million for all the work and everything he did for our corporation for over the years. I know he didn't receive a very large stipend, but Mr. Million, being the community-minded person that he was, we do appreciate everything that he did for us.
absolutely.
Thank you, John.
Absolutely. So we have the option of refilling the position with any of the 4 applicants. We have the option of declining to replace the position and using the law firm of our choice, which in the past has been Bose McKinney, on a la carte or as-needed basis, or we can simply select one of the folks that are here.
Did we create a timeline?
The initial goal was to have someone ready to be approved at the August board meeting so that this didn't fall off the table or slip away. So, given
So
that
we
we
can just take this under advisement as of right now.
yes, but Maury made the comment, and it's one I feel was wise to share. Is this something that can be handled by a committee of 2 or 3 board members to interview the 4 applicants in person, if they are willing to do so, and then make a recommendation to the board? Because I'm not entirely convinced that it is necessary for all 7 of us to make this decision. Is that acceptable to the board?
I'm comfortable with that.
Okay.
Here.
Well, Gloria is not here, so I don't want to volunteer her, but I can get,
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I will take volunteers at this time, but I don't want to shortchange the 2 folks that are not able to be here. Or we can,
You wanna be on that committee?
Sure, you want to be on that committee? Board?
anyone else who's physically here care to be on the committee? And I will extend an invitation to Scott and Gloria to be the 3rd member of that committee, and we will turn that over to you folks, and we will eagerly anticipate your recommendation. Thank you very much for volunteering.
With social media, on that same topic, but with social media being what it is, and in the Lafayette paper, we ran a 1/4-page ad 4 different times. Couldn't something like that have been done on social media and saved our corporation a lot of money instead of paying for something like that?
That was done on social media across every platform that we're active on, but it was also pushed out through traditional media. And to be quite honest, I requested that because I didn't know how lawyers received their information. So you can hang that one on me if you so choose, but I wanted it to be known here, there, and everywhere.
And gold star for you, Shane.
Duly noted. Okay, Deb, if you would provide that last applicant's information to Mr. Godlove, Mr. Weymouth, and then I'm guessing either Scott or Gloria will consent to be our 3rd person. We will ask them to pursue whatever timetable you feel appropriate so that we can have a recommendation for the August board meeting. The last item I have on the agenda this evening is the discussion of the reopening plan. I'm sure this will be brief and simple.
Yeah.
Sure.
Go ahead.
The first thing that we have is the letters to the families This will, when it's approved, will go out along with another document that is further along in your packet. This is simply a brief statement. Actually, the first one, I apologize, is from Mr. Galvin to our staff. Basically giving really brief what's happening, and then they can read the 40-page plan at their leisure. But that letter will accompany the reentry plan. Okay. Behind that, in about the same language, is the actual letter to the families. That will accompany a shorter version of the 40-page plan, because we didn't want any parents having to read 40 pages, because that reentry 40-page document is more for staff and teachers, so that we have some more detailed items, because it deals with some nursing, cafeteria, things that we need, cleaning protocols and so forth. So I apologize, I sent this to you Sunday, and I'm not sure what's going on with our email, but everything's getting kicked back to us. So if you have not received email from Twin Lakes and you have Gmail or Comcast, we are trying to figure out the situation on that. So I sent it from my personal Comcast account. You might have received that. So I wanted to give you prior time to read that document, because I do know it's long. Before we even get started on that, I would want to give this group out here a big hand, because this was a month-and-a-half long process, and it was a team effort from cafeteria to it. And when you look at it, you're going to see that we tried to take everything in account. We had school nurses. We were on the IDOE website. We came back. We met every week, sometimes twice. So sorry, guys. And we kept a Google document, and we worked and we worked and we redid things. So nothing is going to be 100%. We can't make everyone happy. We've tried our best to keep our staff and students safe. I've met with the area superintendents. I had a meeting with them today. We tried to make sure that our plans were pretty consistent, because we trade students. So we wanted to make sure that our plans were pretty consistent. So when you see some things and you might have questions, I can point out that if it is or isn't similar to the area corporations, but more than not it is.
And Deb, the mask thing is consistent with at least
Yes.
two of the corporations.
Yes. When we first met with CTO and I sent an email, we said they didn't have to have a mask with them. All of the county schools now have increased that to they have to carry a mask with them. Elementary, obviously, they're going to have it in their room. But if they're in a small group, they should have it on. Food lab here at Twin Lakes, we already require the kids to wear a mask. Science labs, they would wear a mask anytime they're in close quarters and they can't social distance. We want them to have a mask on, along with teachers. So teachers are going to have the same requirements as well, and that is in the plan.
Could I get some insight into the mask requirement versus the optional, as far as what some of the thought processes were?
Guys? This was a long discussion.
I'm sure that it was. I've had several of those.
So I'm going to be honest with you. We went back and forth for a really long time about what we were going to decide to do. I can tell you that just being out and about in our town, we have many parents who are anti-mask and who have said they will not send their kids to school if we require them to wear masks. So as much as we want to take all of our kids' safety into account, we also have to think we want to educate our students, and we don't want to lose students. If we lose students, we lose money. So we have to take all of that into account. We also, I know that there was conversations with the other school corporations that are around, and they were not going to require it. So the more that we read through, and also Dr. Box, who is extremely, obviously knowledgeable on the subject, she got onto a DOE webinar so we could listen to that. And she, of course, highly recommends it, but she's not saying either that it is required. So she did give us a lot of insight on what we could do to operate around the, like, just having a recommended face mask. So she gave us tons of ideas about hallways and what to do in the cafeteria and how to do it in the classroom if the students were not wearing the masks. So we made sure we took diligent notes. We discussed over and over. I'm not, like, it was not a decision that was made lightly to not require it. We took a lot of things into account.
And that's one of the reasons that we sent a survey out, because we just didn't want to make a decision without actually having some data to support. And it was
50-50.
50-50. So right there tells
A
you.
good response on the survey?
We had over 700 parents, so we got,
Wonderful.
yeah, and we thought that was a good feel for how our community were viewing masks. So that answers your question.
I hope it does.
Well, I just think we need to, as an organization, have well thought out conclusions of how we arrived at our decision and be able to answer those questions, because you've got 50% of the people say we ought to be wearing a mask and you've got 50% saying we shouldn't. So you're going to get the same number of questions no matter which way you go. So you better be prepared to answer those transparently and logically no matter which way you decide. So number 2 question is, and I didn't read this in its entirety, but what happens if we have a case? Do we have a protocol for that?
Absolutely. We have protocols for every, yes.
It's in the plan.
It's in the plan.
It's in the plan, yes.
And would we
Very
ever,
well.
would we ever move to a situation where we would require all to wear masks?
And that may be
That's
coming
in there.
from the state level. We, when we
Well, it's
get,
kind of funny how they chickened out and said, no, you guys decide, we don't want to do
it is a local decision.
Exactly.
It changes so much so tomorrow they may come out and say, all schools are wearing masks.
Maybe after November they will.
Absolutely.
Jeff, keep in mind, Marion County has gone to it, so it'd be interesting to see what type of flack falls from that.
Yeah. So as we are, saying right now, it's highly recommended. And then it is going to be required in those specific areas.
And Deb, I think there is I feel like I remember today we talked about it. There was a disclaimer in there that in the future it may be required.
Yes.
That's what
So
I thought.
There is one, yes.
Yes, so we made sure that, anytime we said this is going to be required and it wasn't full-time mask use, that we did say at any time masks may be required. So we're trying to cover all bases with just that
It's a
statement.
slippery slope.
Yep.
It is. We're not going to, please everyone, but hopefully the plan, when they see it, they can tell that we put a lot of thought into keeping their students safe. So.
The main question I'm getting is, everybody, when are we starting school?
August 10th, we're going back.
I just wanted to be out.
Yes, we are going back August 10th.
Also, Jeff, it seems like, I know hopefully we're going to approve this plan or some derivative of it at the next board meeting, but should you all need to feel the need as teachers and administrators to escalate that to requiring masks, I hope you don't think that you need to come back. For one on the board, if you guys feel that that's the case,
That's their job.
that's up to you all to make that decision. I don't think you need to wait for a board meeting to do that or a special session. I mean.
And we appreciate that, and we tried to make sure that we communicated that with the TLCTO, that every little change we can't have a meeting for, but we want to make sure we have open communication to say, this is, what we put together, these are our thoughts, because if we did that, nothing would get accomplished, and we would not be ready to start on August 10th.
Well, a lot of it gone into this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's worth noting, there's a lot of strongly held opinions about this crisis amongst our parents of our teachers, and we respect their right to their opinion. I guess I'm going to push it out there that we ask those parents to respect our administrators and teachers' right to do what they've been directed to do by their superintendent, assistant superintendent, and state DOE. If you're upset, if you're cranky, if you're ready to throw something, go home and relax. our teachers really don't need to hear it. They're doing their best. Okay?
Thank you.
Anything else from the reentry plan we need to have brought to our attention?
One of the things that the reentry plan includes, we're going to have a lot of questions on, do we have distance learning available? And one of the things that we took, this is probably besides the math conversation, one of the things that we had to take in consideration, and when we thought about distance learning, the first question was, how are our teachers going to do this and take on more responsibilities? And a lot of schools are using their teachers, but we did not feel at this point that we're ready for that. And one of the things when I say we're not ready for it, we don't feel that our e-learning would be, our distance learning if Twin Lakes did it, would be rigorous enough for our students. And I'm not saying anything about our teachers or their capabilities, but when they're teaching all day and then they have responsibilities to fulfill when a student is distance learning, that's a lot on them. Some also have used some teachers that aren't coming back. We don't know that number. What if we turn out and they want to come back and we're stuck? So that was one thing that we wanted to make sure that we found something that we could still have our students, and get their, and have them count as our ADM count. That was important. We didn't want to lose students, I'll be honest, to other corporations, so we had to provide something. So one of the last board meeting, Mrs. Whitehead brought up that they're using Edmentum at their high school level now instead of Apex for credit recovery. So we had several sessions with Edmentum because we wanted to make sure that would be a right program for our students and that it's going to have the academics that they need. We are very impressed with the program. It is not cheap. And we're going to put that out there. It is not a cheap program, but it's, we think, and we really do believe that it's what's best for our students. The price for, let me give you a background. We use their teachers. Our teachers have no responsibility. We use Edmentum teachers, Edmentum curriculum, which is Indiana standards based. They will earn credits. Okay. They have to be enrolled for a semester in order to earn those credits. If they're a K-5 student, they need to be enrolled for that 9 weeks. But we want to also point out that they can come back into our schools as well. One of the things that Edmentum has done, because of, they usually say you have this many students, like the high school has 70 seats, and you would pay for those seats, and you have to pay up front. What they're doing is you pay as you go. So when a student is registered, they will bill you. So you're not stuck paying for a semester and the kid decides, really, this isn't for me because it's a lot of work. So they will bill us as we go. Now, what they do with K-5 is they bill every month, $250. So you're thinking, $250, roughly it's going to take about $3,200, $3,100 for one student to complete Edmentum courses for the year. So we're not getting all the money, but we're getting money that we wouldn't have if they went somewhere else.
Is that covered under COVID if they're out or under the CARE Act for reimbursement?
So we set aside $80,000 in the CARE Act to pay for the some of it. It won't cover all, but it will certainly provide some money to cover that. If you think of the ADM money that we may lose, it'll come pretty close to covering it. Principals, do you have anything to add? If you have questions, we can try to answer those for you.
That's a good point. So, if you want to say it, yeah, it is a good point.
This is not something that we're trying to push. It's a last ditch effort to keep a student here.
So I don't want to, like, we're not going out to advertise this
Right.
to all of our kids, like, hey, everybody do online.
Here's the online option.
Yeah.
And that has implications far-reaching to
Yeah.
education in Indiana if we were doing that. But this is a rigorous program. They can't take it lightly because it's hard. And some kids are going to look at it. We can show them a YouTube video that shows them, here's what you're going to be doing every day, and they're going to go, I'm going to go back to school, Mom. Thanks.
One thing that we do want to point out is we strongly felt that they cannot just sign up for it. They will have to come in, make an appointment with the administrator at their home school. They are going to be asked questions. One, do you have capability to have internet access to fulfill the requirements? Also, K-5, they stress to us that they have to have parental support because it's rigorous. When we saw it, we were like, wow. So they're not going to be able to do this program unless parents are there to assist them. They didn't stress that so much with the 612 program, but after seeing it, it's tough. So they say 1 hour per course. So these kids, we want to point out, this is not e-learning. This is not an e-learning program. It is a distance learning program. You're going to be on your computer an hour per course. So 6 through 12, you're going to be on at least 5 to 6 hours a day to get your coursework. So I think this is what makes the program different than what some other corporations are going to offer. They're going to offer some e-learning options. To me personally, their kids aren't going to be ready. I don't think, no way can they meet the standards, Indiana standards, doing it that approach. So I highly suggest this program just because of the fact we're going to get these kids back.
One question I have, let's say that I think if I remember right in that one document you sent out, K through third grade, it was like 3.5 hours or 4.5 hours a day that the little people are going to have to be on the computer. It was a lot. With
K2 is 5 hours
5
a
hours
week.
A week.
A week.
A week.
And then the 3 through, yes.
Three through
But
6.
but the other grades are an hour.
But it did say in that document, which was from this company, that parental support was really critical.
Yes. And they kept saying that. What we did
Well,
is,
that's true in school.
yeah, right,
All
yeah.
levels.
Right.
Newsflash.
My question is, so let's say the kid says, yeah, I'm going to do it, and we start off on it. At what point do we monitor that and say, this isn't working, or this is working, or something needs to change?
So what we will do is all administrators can check in. So when we know a student is ours, we can check in. However, the teacher, admin teacher, and they have a coach that checks in with them as well. They have a pacing guide, so they have to stay on pace. So it's truly like a K-12 homeschool program. It is, you've got your curriculum and you have to keep meeting those goals.
Okay.
High school is pretty rigorous. Actually, K-12 is, but K-5 has the whole year to finish the program. Obviously, when we get into 6 through 12, they have the semesters.
Okay.
So, yeah.
What's their percentage of success?
That, yes. 80% finish the program.
80?
Yeah, I think it was the 80. I don't think it was.
Jen, 80? Is that what you said, Jen?
Yeah.
So this is designed for the parent or the child that is not comfortable being in school.
Right.
So here's an alternative.
And we will have a criteria, and we actually do have that. What we, and that's in here. So we actually came up with Twin Lakes Corporation Distance Learning, and that's in your packet. So we have our policy, the course length, anything that the parent would have to attendance. So anytime that we're in school, they should be logged in. So, we're really trying to keep them. They're our students, so we want to make sure. One thing we need to point out, though, if they take this option, there are no extracurriculars that they will be involved in. So I just want to throw that out there.
Have you been you're planning to be upfront with everyone about
Yes,
that from?
and it is in the plan. Yes.
Is any of the other corporations in the county doing Edmentum?
No,
They doing anything close to Edmentum?
no. I'm gonna be honest, they may call me and, I will say, Tri-County
And the only
and,
reason I'm asking, because if it's so rigorous, if it's too rigorous for our kids, how many would we lose to another school in the county that would go to something that's not as rigorous?
Wouldn't the reason they'd opt into it be that they didn't want to attend school, though?
yeah.
Something easier.
I think what John's saying is
It's
they're gonna have
easier.
another alternative that
Yeah.
still meets the requirements.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
I haven't heard that they're offering an online, are they?
Some of them are remote, they would be assigned a classroom and they remote into that classroom.
But that's where we need
What
learning.
credits than the other schools?
Exactly.
So they could
That's
already be
not
doing
good.
this.
And that's the chance we take.
Hey, John, at the high school, we already require more credits than the other county schools anyways. So they really can be doing that from the start if they
Right.
wanted to, right? So,
Thank you.
Deb, did you also mention that this will support students with IEPs and 504s?
Yes, special education students, 504 students, those students that cannot attend because of health issues can take this. And then that's where we will still be TORs, teacher of record, for those students. Sorry, I throw those out there and I need to explain that. So our special education teachers will be their teacher of record. We will use their curriculum. They'll be online, but we need to make sure that they're closely monitored so that everything in their IEP is followed, which is their
To do
individual
aids for
learning
them?
plan.
Any aids for them at home for assistance?
Some of our students will actually be on homebound if they can't, if this is gonna be too much for some of them. So they will have other options through the special education department. So this isn't gonna fit all of our special education students. Our life skills students, it's not gonna fit them. So we'll be doing, we'll look at each individual, that's a case conference decision when we go to that, to decide what's gonna be best for those students. Donna will have her tracks covered. I'm not even worried about it. So we've talked a lot, and she sat through all of the meetings with us too, with them, and made sure that it would work, what students it would work for that she's servicing. Any other questions on that?
Very well covered. Thank you. Great job.
Other concerns or comments about reentry? We know it's a fluid document, and we really do appreciate everyone working together on it.
Very fluid.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Very fluid.
Very appreciated.
Does TLCTO want to speak? Are they comfortable with the situation, with the document?
Good point, Mike.
Well, when, we were listening to webinars from the, and the governor was giving his updates and.
I'm having trouble hearing, Barb, I'm sorry.
Sorry, I'm having trouble talking too.
Barb, you can come closer. You need to come closer.
When we were talking, when we were listening to webinars, et cetera, from the IDOE, et cetera, they were saying how we were supposed to be, you know, a part of the discussion, et cetera, et cetera. And we've only been to one meeting. We've only been invited to one meeting. And we had to push for that. So when discussion happens, we're supposed to be able to have input and then be able to talk about the concerns that come up from that. And we don't think that that's what really happened this time around. Because, like I said, our discussion team went to one meeting, and so I wasn't at that meeting because I have vice presidents of discussion, so they were there. They couldn't come tonight. That's why Darcy and I are here. And so taking the concerns to other leadership teams, team members, et cetera,
and having time to get, any kind of discussion going, saying, this is what we learned, and we have time to look at what they've learned and then be able to voice concerns or have any input, and that just hasn't happened in this instance, we don't think.
Now that this is quasi-public, I guess, as a result of this meeting, will you be able to take it back to your group, and by the time we meet on Tuesday, will they have time to vet that out and
I can ask them.
express their
Sure, I can.
acceptance? Or
Can I ask a question? And I don't know if I'm allowed to. So the 2.5-hour meeting that we had with the discussion team wasn't enough when we went by page? I guess what I'm concerned about is there were 2 meetings, not just one.
Okay.
There were 2, because I'm at all of them. So there were 2 meetings, not just one.
I only knew about one because I was on vacation.
Right, there were
so
2.
I apologize.
So not just one. And we went through, at the last one, a 40-page document, page by page, line by line. We addressed every single concern in a 2.5-hour process.
Okay.
So I guess my question is, what else is it that you're looking for? Because 2.5 hours going page by page, I'm telling you, I was ready to jump out a window. Like, I get it. It's concerning for all of us. A big part of that document came from the DOE. So there's a lot of things we can't do that's not really. So when you're thinking about discussion, what Dr. McCormick had said on the DOE webinars is when it comes to your workplace safety, which we addressed all of those concerns.
Okay.
After that meeting, which was over a week and a half ago, we have heard nothing since then. So if there were concerns, why were they not sent to the administration so we could then meet again?
I will have to ask my vice
Okay.
presidents of discussion.
Yeah, I guess that's what surprised me getting handed this tonight. We thought we gave those documents out also earlier for you guys to disseminate among your group. And I'll say, we had probably 25 people in this process, and I know it was administrators and it was also department heads. If we had more people than that, and I'm sorry if you feel excluded and not have a voice in this matter, but it took hours to just organize. So what we wanted to do is bring a plan to you that was put together that you could then use your voice to say, we're not really sure with this. But when we sat through that meeting, I thought we were good. Everyone was saying, yeah, this looks great. And then a week and a half later, I got an email from Carl today that they necessarily didn't agree with it, which I'm fine with that.
I don't know if it's about the necessarily or not necessarily agreeing with it, but you guys have been working on this for how long now?
Over a month.
Over a month. And I know that when was the first meeting that you guys had? I'm not quite sure. And I'm not, and I know that when I spoke to Carl and Lisa, they told me about how long the meeting was, and they said that it seemed to be a good meeting. But then we also have to have time to take it to people, and
Well, they were impressed with all the hard work too.
Yes.
I think it makes it hard with the numbers that we weren't there, so we kind of feel out of the loop as well.
Yeah.
And then some of the questions were, and I'm sorry for interrupting.
No, that's fine.
Some of the questions also were things like that need to be more specifically discussed at the elementary level.
Absolutely, and maybe that's where we're getting some concern from teachers, because this is more general, this is what we're gonna do. But your principals are going to have a plan for every building's gonna be different. How they walk into a cafeteria or where they're sitting, because all our buildings are so much different. So I think maybe it's not so much we're not agreeing on things, but we didn't have a clear understanding that this is an overall reentry plan, but it's gonna be very specific to your building. So the elementary is going to look different than the high school. So they have more small group interaction. They were concerned about that. So individual principals are going to have to cover that and cover it closely, and they're going to be the ones in charge of their building, making sure this plan is fulfilled. So maybe that, maybe it's not so much.
Maybe they didn't understand that part of it. Maybe
Yeah,
they
and I think it's going to be an easy thing to work out, because I do believe in the plan we put together, and I think maybe it's just some miscommunication between members, and that their voice will be heard, maybe at their building level. This is a general plan, but when we get to the building level, we're gonna have to have conversations with the staff and make sure they may have ideas, hey, this is what I'm doing. How are they setting their classroom up?
I mean, and that was some of it too, like silly things that may not be so silly. Like if I have a big fluffy rug in the middle of my kindergarten classroom, does that need to be removed?
Yes. And those are all building level conversations that's when their voices are going to be heard. And I think some of the frustrations and the fears of what are we doing, that's when those are going to be covered. So what we have to do initially is get a plan, that's overall reentry plan, out to our parents. Let's do that first, and then we can start making building level decisions where everyone's voice is heard, not just your members, but everyone in the corporation. If that clarifies anything, if you could take that message back.
Yes.
I think that.
Would as well.
Yeah.
We don't want this to be an open and shut. We've stressed the word fluid quite a
Yes.
No, it can't be.
It can't be.
Because you're going to have ideas that we didn't think
It
of.
changes every day.
And honestly, the countless hours that we've put in this plan, I can say, Deb can say, it changes from day to day.
Yeah. And then considering the health, the health of the students and the staff at each individual school, I'm sure it's gonna vary. Like even in the plan, it said certain students may be required to wear a mask depending on, and then I think it's exactly that. People are just afraid, and I worry for sport. I joke around.
Just one of the classrooms with desks and tables.
Right.
We love our tables, and we're going to have to keep those tables and figure out how we're going to social distance because we can't buy all new desks.
Right.
So those are things, classroom by classroom is going to change as well. They're going to say, this is what I'm going to do in my classroom. Is this okay? Does this fit the reentry plan of, the rules we have for social distancing? So please take that message back to your members, and we'll work that out. And I know everyone is kind of scared and the unknown. We all are too in this room. So I appreciate this, and we'll work together to solve it.
And if I could just add too, my job as a building level principal is to help my teachers feel better about it. So if it's my teachers who have concerns, they need to be emailing me so I can help. So please let your members know that. I'm sure all the rest of the administrators feel the same way. I have gotten 0 emails. So if you're concerned, email me. I check my email every day. I've gotten phone calls, but not about that kind of stuff. So just email me. I'm fine. I'll field it.
I think part of it is that they don't know anything yet.
Yeah.
Yes.
They're told
Right.
nothing yet.
Right.
I'm getting emails saying, when do we hear what's going to happen?
Right.
Well, we couldn't until this was approved.
Right.
So I think the takeaway message from this is healthy communication is challenging and deadly necessary in this situation. It's new. There's been a ton of work go into it. It sounds like there's been some misunderstandings about input. But this is our best foot forward at this point, based off of our building level administrators and our central office administrators. I think we're all comfortable with tasking those people with, once the plan's approved, customizing on a building by building level, and also on a person by person level, because we certainly have some people that have different risk factors than the average person teaching for us.
And that's what we got the administrators out there.
But we do appreciate CTO being here to answer the question and also to represent your members. That's part of your function, and it's a very valid one. So we thank you for your input.
I would just like to remind all of you that, because I've had to remind myself, compassion and a realization that everybody's on the edge of everything. And so before you react, before you lash out, before you assume intent, just take a deep breath and realize that it's been nothing like this before. I mean,
It's a new era.
I mean, it's been high stress for a long time, and it's going to be that way for a while. So deep breaths, make a phone call, don't assume intent. It would go a long way to some non-hurt feelings.
Barb, you have my number. Yeah, and you guys know, just give me a holler. I mean.
Well, and it's not a concern about hurt feelings. That's not a concern.
Oh, no.
And it's not a concern about, and it's not, giving kudos to all the time that's went into this before, you know, the 2 meetings, and I thought it was just one. So I went on vacation, I've been sick, I've been, you know, so it's not, that's not the issue. It was tough to get invited to the party.
Okay, do noted, thank you.
Other items to be brought before the board for the work session. Those are all the items I have. Hearing no additional items, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Maury. Thank you, John. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. We stand adjourned.
Thank you.
Sorry, I couldn't figure a graceful way.
But I didn't mention that